Hello, and today we'll be playing Snow's West. This is a story that came from the Novembear 2024 jam, and basically it's a jam where you can make a visual novel as long as the character or interest or the MC, I think, either one of them is a bear. So yeah, so we're gonna be playing this story now because I think bears are my favorite species actually. And I also have wolf jams as well, like you gotta make a character, it has to sit around a character that's a wolf. So we also got those wolf jams. But this story is part of a bear jam, for the Novembear jam from 2024 last year. So we gotta go ahead and start with this story. And can't wait for this to be over. Even my adulthood, my stomach turns over during long carriage rides. The only respite between my slow climbs into nausea were the nights in which we stopped to rest. We traveled in a small convoy, my carriage and some of my finest men to guard it. Behind us, a few trader wagons following along with the mercenaries. All of us headed north. We had risen in the early hours of the day to make the final stretch of our trip to the capital city of Urwelen. Our Kafenthar, the home to House Waffen. It's been many years since I've traveled this far north. Back then I had worse to worry about than losing my breakfast to a carriage ride in front of my soldiers.
At a Senate hearing about the dangers of the AI chatbot.
Blood spilled before I was old enough to lift a sword. The claws on the ever-hungry empire reached out from the south to tear away at the north's belly as it had in our ancient past. On the edge of my homeland, they pillaged and massacred my people. A force so bloodthirsty only the whole of our realm brought together could stand a chance. But the war is over now. The signing of its treaty and the last of its battles now in memory, 3 years distant from my sickly present. 3 years which, according to the lord of the house of Waffen and his affiliates, were worth celebrating. A feast at the cultural capital of the realm, held on the anniversary of the first day of hard-earned peace. I scanned the parchment in my hands again, details of the event written in extravagantly decorative calligraphy in prose that definitely isn't his work. At least, not all of it. I could tell the mention of myself as a guest of honor was his idea that bears no fan of subtlety. There isn't much to do in the cold wooden box. This is my carriage, and so to steady my stomach I read until I hear a voice above the rattling of the wooden wheels. You can look up from that scroll now, my lord. We're here. The sickness in my head and stomach fades completely, replaced with a turning of excitement as I see the towers of the coastal city through crisp, eerie air. Finally, the wooden gates of the city slowly open. The wooden gates of the city open slowly, a deep, resonant yawn from ancient hinges that reveal the oldest city of the far north, forged in the ashes of conflict long past. A sudden incline tells me that we're crossing the central bridge. Below us, a river completely frozen over. At this time of year, we could easily have crossed it on the ice alone. Lord, are you right? You've been lost in thought since the morning. River, who sits across from me, speaks up just as my eye catches the city temple, I'm torn from recalling its history to reply. I'm quite alright. It's been some time since I've laid my eyes upon the city, however. I suppose you had a little time on mine for sightseeing during the war. He looks out at the homes and workshops we rode past, contemplating painting his face. I've never been this far north before, but for a host capital, this city is pretty small. There's less people in general this far north, less to go around. Didn't feel that way during the war. They're almost marched. Didn't feel that way during the war. They almost matched our own men one for one. Right, it sure was impressive. My mind slips back into those days, beginning to think. Something to think about. Perhaps the fox smiles, content in having successfully brought my attention back to the present. We're just a few moments away. Now, my lord, better prepare. I hear another set of large wooden gates grown open as we finally enter the walls of Castle Rayford, a place that seems to always be the setting of change in my life. Despite being so far from home, the carriage stops, allowing me to finally reach it and stretch my legs. I exit to a welcoming applause from the Lord's subjects as soon as my hooves meet the snow. I greet them with waves and smiles. As few approach me, but our conversations don't move beyond formal greetings. With Rever in tow, I make my way to the host and Lord of Irwin himself, Elderco Waffen. Under normal circumstances, it's customary for the Lord and his family to be present at the greeting, standing together, the Lord, his wife, and the inheriting children. The tall black bear stands alone, with only his advisors flanking him. Olivold, it's been too long. The mountain of a man brings me in for a hug, bruises but caring, as is typical of the Erie. It's hard not to break into a big smile, but I try to maintain a sense of formality. Standing upright, I broaden my shoulders and speak confidently. Indeed it has been. How have you been faring? The bear smirks back, fangs poking out from his lips, a stark contrast from the resting face of stoicism he maintained during official talks. As well as ever. Things have been wonderful. The land is recovering, and my subjects are benefiting. How are things back home? Things are going well, but surely we can spare such discussions for later. I rub my temple, and in the periphery of my vision, I see Illico address Rever. I also see the others attending my arrival begin to approach us, and I address them in kind. We talk, and their queries quickly veer towards the invasive, asking of my home's well-being, and their eyes appraise me. I must appear more exhausted than I feel after the ride, a perfect opportunity to prod me with detail on my hold's current struggles. Disgust fills the back of my mind, but I am steadfast and prepared to answer without feeding them much to gossip about. The South is growing stronger and more prosperous by the day. My subjects are performing their duties well. We are united in our goals. I have faith we'll make good on our promises. I've gone through half of my rehearsed responses when Edico finally interjects. Now, I'm sure our guest of honor is weary from weeks of travel. I believe this calls for a well-deserved rest. Your conversations can resume later during the celebrations. The bear looks at his subjects who seem to begrudgingly be in agreement. He turns to me, then gestures the hallway doors. Away from the crowd, I finally allow myself to relax. Leaving Weather and ethical subjects behind, we walk for a while, making small talk as we wind down the hallway alone. With much less with much less to worry about, I find myself smiling, the bear beside me doing the same. We turn another corner, closer to his chambers. A rush of energy fills me as I'm made to look up at the giant bear, realizing quickly that he's pushed me against the wall. I was trapped by his larger body, a blunt echoing sound coming from his hand clapping against the beside me, my back pressed to the stone. I fucking miss you. He pressed his lips against mine with a force that pushes my head back until I feel my antlers grind against the wall. I breathe out through my nose, melting into the kiss as he shoves his tongue past my lips. The relief I feel, finally seeing and touching him again after so long, almost brings me to tears. The rush of emotions in a long moment deprived of air has me in a daze when he finally pulls back, panting against my face. Sorry, I couldn't wait until we got inside. He says with a warm smile, cupping my chin. I lean in again and press my lips against his response, and when I pull back, he chuckles. Never was a patient type. His other hand locks around mine, rough Kalao's paw pads much bigger than my own. I'm so glad you're here. Life is warmer when you're here. His words fluster me as much as his actions, and I can't help but break our eye contact, finding an interesting spot on the stone floor to stare at as my cheeks burn. As I do, I'm reminded that we're still out in the hallway. But perhaps we should head to your chambers, unless you'd like to put on a show for your servants. I just might. Ethical. He snickers and pulls away, hands still engulfing mine, as we walk to his room. The door creaks slightly as it opens, and I recall the sound is by design, to give those with ill intent a harder time getting in unnoticed. Ethical's chambers are quite humble by Southern Venturian standards. It's quite big, and I somewhat prefer the homely approach to decor over the opulent style decorating my bedroom. A burning fire crackles in the hearth to my left as I enter. On the other side of the room is a massive bed, one big enough for at least 2 other bears to sleep in. And near the hearth, a couple of chairs and a round table. Bits and pieces of my lover's life and heritage decorate the room. Mostly trophies of furs and weapons, ornaments of carved wood and stone. At the far end of the room, by the balcony, there's a dresser with a mirror where I like to imagine he braids that mane of his. I had only seen this room after Elico inherited it from his father, but it always feels like a second home. I feel at peace here, away from the troubles back home in Fisterwork. It gives me time and space to think clearly, or to stop thinking at all, for once. Come, have a seat. He brings back my attention, and I do as he suggests. I can tell the bear is seeing right through me as his brow furrows, and he sits at my side, only tilting his head slightly to face me. I requested some elderflower tea shortly before your arrival. It should be here soon. He pauses for a moment, piecing together his next words as he looks over my face. Something troubles you? I sigh. I don't recall the last time something didn't. I hear you. His hand reaches over. He squeezes my thigh gently. Times are tough, but we've endured much worse. Better days are coming. It's only a matter of time. I hope so. Erico stands and approaches the door. Instead of allowing the servant inside, he says his thanks takes the tray from their hands and excusing himself quietly, closed the door. They brought some sweets too. From the quality, I can tell it's Gernal's work. They brought some sweets too. From the quality, I can tell it's Gernal's work. Returning with a toothy grin, he places the tray on the table between us and sits before pouring me a cup of hot, sweet elderflower tea. The aroma brings me back to the days of my childhood. Troubled as it was, this tea always came with the pockets of good. I bring it close to my lips before blowing on it, steam wafting from the cup. I close my eyes, then take a short sip. It's delicious, sweet, but very herbal, an uncommon combination, but one the Uri have mastered. I let out a satisfied hum, holding the cup a little longer to warm my hands before I set it down. I see it didn't disappoint you. It hasn't in a while now. My eyes wander to the sweet pastries on the tray, and my sweet tooth urges me to take one. I indulge it this time, grabbing a blueberry turnover made with a flaky puff pastry. Ernesto grabs the other piece and makes a toast. I chuckle silently and oblige him before we both take a bite. Ernesto lets out a single groan, closing his eyes. He tried being well-mannered with a small first bite, but after the flavor hit, he forgoed all pretense and shoved the whole thing into his maw. That didn't take long. I laughed with my mouth closed, struggling to swallow my first bite completely. I pat my chest with the palm of my hand, finally gulping it down before clearing my throat. The bear grins back, glad to see his display brought me joy. However, regardless of the distractions, my mind can't help but wander back to the thoughts that trouble me. Sensing this, Ernesto adjusts himself, now wearing a stoic expression with care in his eyes. What's got your mind in a blizzard? He grabs my attention back from the anxieties plaguing my mind, and I meet his gaze. Trouble, back home. It's the Torek tribes. They're still upset about the peace agreement. Can't blame them. They sacrificed the most in the end. Yes, but now they are causing trouble with the landed gentry and peasants. The peace terms were rough on them, but there's little I can do to help. The rebuilding costs are bleeding our coffers dry. Ernesto winces slightly. He probably knows a thing or two about heavy spending after having to deal with the aftermath of his father's war. I can help with some of the costs. I'll cover more of the payments for the new road, and I'll give you some coin as an additional gift before you leave. I raise a brow. Additional? Well, you are the guest of honor. After all, it wouldn't be appropriate if I didn't spoil. Well, you are the guest of honor. After all, it wouldn't be appropriate if I didn't spoil you a little. I blush slightly as I recall that, but quickly bring my attention back to the main topic at hand. I would really appreciate that. Thank you, Ernesto. The money will go a long way, I can assure you. He nods with a satisfied smirk on his face. My mind slowly begins thinking of all the different ways the money could be spent and how I could go about easing the pain of the Torek people. I stare into the wooden table for just a moment, pulling the plans I had set aside until now out of the feeling of my hand. In the periphery of my tunnel vision, I see Ernesto grab his chair and get closer, but I don't really register his movements until he holds my hand, gripping with a firm kindness. You'll have plenty of time to think about your plans. Well, now let's spend some time in the present together. He kisses my cheek and I'm flustered again, avoiding his gaze for a moment. Alright, I will try my best. I say, looking back at him, which provokes him to kiss me again, a gentle peck on the lip. We talk, and we talk, and we talk. They say time passes quickly when you're with the ones you love. For me, it's no different. We catch up on more personal topics, we mess with each other. He teases me, and I tease him back, but mostly we comfort each other. Edico was doing much of the heavy lifting this time, however, seeing how tired I was from traveling. Hours later, I lay on top of him in his bed, resting my chin on his chest. He pets between my antlers and behind my ears gently, the warmth of his hand and his body removing the little cold that hung in the air this far up north. These moments of silent intimacy are perhaps my greatest motivator in life, but they are always short-lived. I go and fall to his side, leaning my neck away from his head to avoid poking his good eye out. We both sit up, and I head to the table with a defeated sigh, taking a seat to pretend we weren't just in bed together. Elder Cole unlocks the door and opens it. So whatever. My attention is caught, and I stand up to make my way to the door, waiting for whatever the fox's request may be. My lord, I wish to speak to Lord Oswald. Nodding, Erdico pulls the door open wide and then steps aside to place me in full view. Where is it, Weather? I apologize for intruding on your moment of privacy, but may he wish to speak with you. The Lord's subjects are growing restless. I sigh again. Erdico looks at me as he assesses the situation but waits for my decision. I choose to entertain the nobles, but first, spare some of it. I want to say my farewells. He nods and turns away, taking a few steps to remain out of earshot. I turn my attention back to Erdico as he closes the door. I lean in for a kiss, and he obliges. It's much shorter than the one we had earlier. I wish we could have done more today. Don't worry. We have plenty of time to indulge the wishes. He smirks, making his implications clear, and my chest flutters. I quickly peck his cheek before holding the door handle and pulling it. So we go. Erdico nods, and together we leave the chambers. We spend the rest of the day conversing with early nobility and some of the prominent lords and figures from across the realm. The conversations are a mix of dull, hostile, intense, with very few exceptions. By the evening, I excuse myself, resigning to my appointed guest room within the castle. Not too close to his, but not too far should I grow adventurous in the night. As I lay on the bed, sleep takes hold of me almost immediately. My thoughts are drift away. Weather sighs after taking a sip of his elderflower tea. The two of us are in the front courtyard, seated in an outdoor eating area. The festivities have yet to start, and most of the Rothan court who have come from outside the city are staying in luxury accommodations outside the castle. But aside from a few servants and guards, the old castle remains largely empty. It's a rare sunny day in the far north. A cool breeze still washes over our bodies, but the sun and a third layer of warm clothing is enough to keep warm. However, my Huskar sees me staring out and decides to interrupt my thoughts for another time. They really chewed you up yesterday. You hang in there? I hum an affirmation. You know, compared to what you have to put up with, war seems almost preferable at times. The fox chuckles, leaning back in his seat. No reading between the lines, no faith No fake niceties, just enemies to defeat. If only diplomacy stopped then. I laugh and the fox towards me. I suppose so. I, I'm definitely not envious of your post. You're so very soothing on the mind, Rever. He chuckles and nudges me. A brief silence falls over us between. No, a brief silence falls over us before he begins to speak again. You've always had a knack for the more subtle elements of leadership. I think you're doing well, all things considered. Not as well as I could be, given the situation at home. Rever rolls his eyes. If we were better prepared, if I had strategized better, the worst of it could have been avoided. Yes, leave it to a 9-year-old child to prepare the realm's defenses. He says straight-faced before letting out an exhausted kind of sigh. The Twilights have always been quarrelsome. Oswald, stubborn about their way of life, the invasion was only a catalyst. Don't let the malicious words of a few pesky lords cloud your judgment. You've done plenty of good, and the worst of it was more than avoided thanks to you and your uncle. He chuckles. Most lords wouldn't even have a second thought about the well-being of their subjects as long as they still had them. Another silence falls. I mutter over for a bit and feel a sense of comfort from his words. I appreciate it, Rever. No ice on the road. We exchange a smile and continue enjoying our light breakfast and tea in a peaceful quietness. About a minute or so later, I hear the doors of the inner castle gate creak open. Behind it is Erdocrow and 2 guards following behind. Good morning, Lord Oswald. He nods to me. Sir Rever. And then to him. I hope our accommodations have been to your standards. He maintains a sense of formality to his speech and gentle smile on his face. Of course, House Raffin's courtesy is second to none, thus being the exception. I grin teasingly. He chortles in response and turns to Rever. I hope the same carries on for you. The fox nods his head. It's been a pleasure and an honor to stay at this great, historic castle. Your words are well received. He turns back to me. My friend, I'm eager to give you a proper tour of our city. It's been far too long since you've seen it, and I think it's high time we correct this great error. He flashes a toothy grin my way. I can't help but smile and blush a little. I may have visited the city during the war, but each time was short and diplomatic, with no room for leisure. I haven't truly seen the city since I was a kid. Chuckling softly, I stand up. Very well then, it has been too long. We begin to walk, and our guards start to follow behind. However, Erdocrow had other plans. Turning back to them, he spoke in a sincere yet firm tone. I believe we'll be taking this tour ourselves. We'll handle any threat that shows itself. His guards pause for a moment, but don't raise any objections. Rever looks my way for confirmation, and I nod at him. You're dismissed. The 2 of us walk away from our entourage and past the castle gates with little concern. Aside from us both being capable warriors, Erdocrow is highly respected among the common folk. The streets of Archavathar are the same as I remember them. For some reason I'm relieved. Unlike Edolaja, Avakathar avoided the broader consequences of war. Many sought refuge in my home city as the empire crept closer, and we had to adapt quickly from there. But these streets remain the same, untouched by the turbulence of my life. Oswald. My attention is brought to the bear, and I realize now that he had been speaking all this time. He smirked, seemingly able to tell. What could you be thinking of this time, my dancing figure? I puffed a bit and blushed. Even facing forward, he could still see me in his periphery, chuckling all the while. I was thinking of the city, how little it has changed throughout the years. The bear seemed to be thrown into his own bit of contemplation. Those words seemed to disturb him in some way. Little has changed. In comparison to Erdolastia. I tried to say nonchalantly, but my eagerness to comfort him makes it sound clearly rushed. Enrico chuckles embarrassed. Don't ill yourself. You aren't familiar with Alcatraz's finer details. I walk close to him, nudging his arm with his elbow just as we come up on the city center, the square already bustling with activity so early in the morning. It's early day. Care to enlighten me then? You know, I'm no good with words. You'll have to feel it for yourself. He continues walking now, with a warm smile on his face. Shortly afterwards, a nobleman greets us, but Enrico's mood seems to be unaffected for once. Enrico keeps that genuine grin and greets him back, then continues with small talk, giving me space to slip back to my thoughts. Soon after, I'm addressed by the nobleman and come to regret my habits for the umpteenth time as I fumble through a response and a goodbye. He probably thinks I was ignoring him this entire time, which is mostly true, but I'd rather not put the idea in their heads. I begin to worry about the frequency to which my thoughts run astray, but luckily Enrico is here to pull me out of any new mental hole that I start to dig myself. It shouldn't be too long now. I can always smell Gernald's goods, he says, guiding me along. In true to his words, whatever Gernald has cooking in the oven smells divine. Wind chimes clank softly as we enter. An abrupt sound of a crate being placed follows. Coming. A gruff voice of a cheery man answers from a room in the back, and from it comes the baker, Gernald, who stops wide-eyed at his unexpected guest. Lord Ildico, he bows him, and Lord Olivold, and then to me. To what do I owe the honor? He says, nerves getting the better of him. Relax, Gernald. I've come to treat my guests here to some of your finest sweets. Enrico says with a toothy grin and a chuckle. Now, I don't want to cause interruptions with each customer that comes by. I'm sure you could give us a more secluded area to converse. The Warriors thinks for a moment, smiling when he passes on to the bear's suggestion. Ah, yes, of course, follow me. He guides us behind the counter into the bakery's back room, where past the flames and pots waited a homely table with 2 seats. We sit and he quickly heads back to the front to fetch our food. Enrico looks at me with excitement in his eyes, the toothy grin on his face the same as it was when I first met him all those years ago. It takes a lot of me to not let anything about how cute he's being slip. I miss his smiles dearly, but I'd rather not let Gernald or any passing customer know just how much. So, not just personalized sweets, but a private venue. Being such good friends with the baker sure has its perks. I tease, poking the bear under the table with my hoof. Flustered, he takes pause to come up with a response. Well, having a sweet tooth goes a long way. as you may know. He teases back, poking at my own weaknesses. Yeah, me there. There's a short pause as we stare at each other, a silent conversation spoken only in longing gazes. I urge the ears to make every moment alone with him count tastefully, and I reach slowly across the table for his hand. His own is almost halfway across the short table to reach for mine when Gernal comes back with some freshly baked goods. Here you are, my lords, the first batch of the day. A previous apprentice of mine made a visit a short while ago, and he taught me this new pastry all the way from Illyria. They call it a crescent roll. He points to a specific pastry on the serving of sweets he presented to us, the name being very descriptive of its shape. There's plenty of butter in it, so I suggest not indulging yourself too much, but if you're anything like my lord, that's likely a tall order. He smiled sweetly before pointing to another one of the rolls. I filled this one with raspberry jam. I think it will complement the flavor well. He makes other brief descriptors of the pastries on the platter filled with a range of different ingredients. Raspberry, elderberry, cloudberry, and blueberry jams, custard, hazelnut cream. The chef made himself short, soon bowing out and leaving the space for us. Intercole invites me to eat, and I do so gladly. My sweet tooth gets the better of me, and I let out a sound. I expect the bear to tease me, but he only reciprocates with a sound of his own. I grin and hold back a laugh. He notices, staring at me and pausing. It's nothing, I say, looking away and picking another sweet. He shrugs and continues. For a few minutes, the only communication we make is through stares and sounds of affirmation made with full mouths to share bites of our favorite pastries. The baker would come in every few minutes to check up on any of his goods which were still cooking. Seeing us as we ate strangely brought a smile to his face. I felt a twinge of embarrassment, but easily bared it. He managed to finish everything he brought. But I should visit Gernal more. Is he perhaps seeking a change of scenery? Intercole laughs. You should choose your next words carefully. That's a threat to my very well-being. Our last tail off, and he ends it with a grin that says he has another thing planned, so I look at him inquisitively. So, I was thinking, now that we've had time to recuperate from the war, and now that we're finally in control, we can join our efforts towards building a more prosperous Jonavator. Oh, I think the roads that connect us are due for a renovation, and some of our houses old deals a visit. Now, I know your budget is constrained as of this moment, and I am by no means sitting on a hoard of wealth, but if we can convince our subjects an adequate plan could be made. Perhaps that's easier said than done. Yes, but the wealth exists, although it's only a matter of planning and sweet talking. The rest will fall into place if we're successful. And with your genius, a good plan is already guaranteed. Hush now. I'm by no means a guarantee. Is it that thinking that makes it so? I want my eyes to lean back slightly. Timidly, I reach for his hand again. We can work on this plan later. I'd rather spend this time between us. He still leaning forward in his seat to do the same. Sound words, if I may. Startled, we turn to the baker. The fear that he saw our exchange sits in my gut only briefly dispelled when he speaks. I only wanted to say I'm glad to see the two of you are still friends. The Olmeers and the Waffens have been at each other's throats for centuries. I'm almost in disbelief seeing you two get along. I only hope this is a sign of better things will around. Nicole and I look at each other and chuckle, staring and smile when we look back at Ganawa. We hope so as well. Only time can tell, but the days of animosity will end with us. Of that I'm sure. The baker looks between us, a smile, a wide smile framing his tusk. I think I see the beginnings of a tear forming in his eye before he bows again and leaves. Nicole and I look at each other. Again, a quiet understanding of our duty between us. With our plates cleared and our bellies full, we bid Gernal farewell. It's only after we leave that I will call the walrus's scars from somewhere. Have we met somewhere before, Gernald, I mean? He was a member of my hearth during the war. He must have seen him then. His old man was worried they'd have to close up. Sent him to me when I led the volunteer army. I hoped that he'd gain enough favor or wealth to keep them going. This was before I became Lord, of course. Under my tenure, a bakery would never close. He smirks at me, and I do the same. Gernal was much more of a fighter than his father assumed. Very trustworthy, too. I still found him in my closest circle. We were surprised when he opted to return to a simpler life in the end, but I'm glad he did. No one can bake quite like he does. There's clearly a bit more behind it than that, but there's little value in prying. As we turn another corner, the sound of the central market's bustle becomes just a bit too loud to ignore. I turn my eyes to it and old memories return. The faint smell of cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg shrouded by the cold wisp of the city. The aids but cared for store fronts, the stalls of more temporary sellers, and others whose goods don't require a proper stare. This market strikes the perfect level of noise. It's lively, and even blind you can tell there's plenty of business going on, but it's never too loud to make you dizzy or tired. You know, it isn't often that I get to enjoy the markets back home. I love the atmosphere, but I can only bear the noise for so long. So, it's almost perfect. Ernico looks at me with a puzzled expression. What? This is the loudest it's been in my lifetime. Do Elder Lassie markets make your ears bleed? This may as well. Last time I went, I returned with a headache. And is there no word to reprise yourself? I'm sure they would give the Lord his space. Well, you see, I went in disguise. Ha! You hid amongst your people as a commoner. Find another lord in this realm who would be so humble, and I will give you my throne. It was years ago. I had grown tired of castle life. Never satisfied with your lot, are you? A diva smirk paints his face that brings my ears down and my cheeks to blush. None the matter. We know to keep our distance here, lord or otherwise. The market is held in a long streetway, leading all the way to the impressive city port. We pass by most stalls without stopping. Where we do, there are short conversations between us and the merchants. Nicole asks about the prices of wares and about their general well-being. I assume most of them are locals and acquaintances from how friendly he speaks to them. He buys surprisingly little, and little interests me either. Nicole comes to a stop as we near the docks. He looks to a stall selling a variety of fish. One amongst them was particularly massive, rather larger than even the bear's prominent belly. Quite the feat. A fine catch, Ernar. The wolf behind the wolf behind the stand nods a wink. Aye, but who will buy it? The bear smiles at the obvious invitation. How much will it be? I may need some corn. It will cost you 10 pinos. 10. Do you think I'm a fool because of my status? You plan to rob me in the sun's presence? The official quickly grows nervous, raising his hands in an attempt to appease him. Nothing of the sort, my lord. This is a rarity for its size, plenty to feed you and even others. Now you make fun of my stature. The bear closes the dentist, suddenly grabbing him by the shirt. I have the mind to flock you where you stand. Please, my lord. Inico. Inico snorts. The official smiles and both begin to laugh. Inico lets go of the man as the laughter tails off, and I'm made the fool. You should have seen the look on your face. He gestures to me as I pout. Always one for theatrics, my lord. Now let me grab my coin purse. The bear reaches for a pouch resting within his belt, feeling around a bit until he comes out with 10 bronze coins. How's your daughter doing? Not so well, though I still have hope for her. Inico responds with an understanding hum, placing down the bronze coins. Have you tried the clergy or a passing sovereign? Yeah, prayers and rituals do little to rest my soul, or hers. The light can only fix so much, I suppose. The bear slips 3 other coins, these with a more prominent minting of his house's emblem made with silver. But, my lord, make sure you exhaust all options. Yes, my lord. Inico nods approvingly, raising his fingers off of the coins. He straightens up and proceeds with a lighter mood. I will call an errand boy to retrieve it. Take care, dear friend. May we rise. May we rise. On that note, the bear turns away. I follow along, feeling very out of place as we walk further up the street and eventually take the stairs down to the city port. Inico looks at me. His eyes tell me he's forming the words of thoughts he struggles with. Andalusia. I hear it's a city of many witches, that your people bask in luxury, and have not been able to make a proper visit. Here we have many people who struggle, many who die from poverty and cold. Do your people struggle the same? I take a pause, looking down as we continue and watching my hooves meet the stone beneath our feet. We pass the second pier when I turn to him. Yes, the wealth has done little to change it. It only reaches a few hands. Inico is hurt by my words. His good eye waters for a moment, and the bad one wets the fur surrounding it. I thought so. He grows silent, and after 9 steps he speaks again. Odd. Yes, Cole? The lords of this land can be cruel, unconcerned. Most are. And I'm not one for solutions. But that's why I admire you. Cole. We reach the end of one of the piers and I realize, to my surprise, that we are alone. The boats are mostly gone, likely away fishing, and the rest of the people are probably deeper into the market. I was to war for you. I made choices I was too afraid to before. I made choices I was too afraid to beforehand. I regret none of it. He turns to face me as I do. It was all worth it to tell you. It was all worth it to see you alive today. He looks to his left and to his right, and then quickly closes the distance between us, planting a kiss on my lips. It leaves as soon as it comes. Forgive me. I couldn't contain myself. Tomorrow, I will make proper time for you, and with everyone drunk or asleep, we will have the entire night. My ears burn redder as he says that. Apologies not needed, and, well, you discredit yourself, Cole. You've made plenty of solutions under your rule, on and off of the battlefield. You are one of the few who inspired me. I wouldn't be the same without you. Saying nothing, Inico blesses him with buzzed in turn. I say we turn back to the castle. If we stay out any longer without any guards, your noble guest might grow anxious. Edico smirks and follows with a nod. We walked away from the pier, the promise he made still in my mind. Hello, Bond here. You have reached the end of this bill. Thank you so much for reading. We're super excited by the amount of folks who've been following, downloading, and commenting on the work we posted on Itch.io, and it's been a great motivator for us both. Currently, our work and many others on Itch.io that contain adult, queer, or furry content can only be viewed by removing donations or other forms of payment. Snow's West, and despite in the core of free games, it will remain so. With the current attacks on queer expression against small creators like us and others you love are currently complicating or outright severing your ability to support these artists and writers. So please do anything you can to push back against the current use of payment processors to silence queer voices and cut off financial support. The current and most effective method is to call these processors and waste their time. The progress we've made so far raising awareness and making these companies regret their choices has been amazing, but the fight isn't over yet. So get out there and make some noise. Share the situation with whoever you can, and don't forget to call or sign the petition that's been floating around Blue Sky since it started. Maybe rise. Guys, there's gotta be more of this. It's not the final build, there's more. I do look forward to them having a time with each other. And maybe they might even, go even more. If you know what I mean, It's, beyond kissing and, touching each other, So these are like, both of them are lords from two different cities. And they've been at war with the Empire. And after a costly fight, they managed to win. I think they won. And they were able to rebuild. But it's very difficult because both of them are kind of cash strapped, or whatever money there is in their village, the small elite keep it from themselves. So a lot of people struggle. So I do like games like this where there's a lot of politics involved, because you get to find out, how things work and what's the pros and cons of a specific strategy or specific program or policy. It makes you really think. It makes you think and brainstorm on how to serve the public. So that's what I like about this. And I also like Napping also. That's another game that's high on politics. So there's more of this to come, so I'm looking very much forward to it. Yeah, and also I haven't really mentioned this at all, but lately it's been this group that's been trying to take furry visual novels down on Itch.io because they believe that not just furry visual novels, but all adult content in general on Itch.io, because they believe it's about child abuse and they don't want adult content or something like that. So, and for a little brief while, a lot of the furry visual novels were not available on Itch.io. Itch.io took them down because this group was pressuring these credit card processors into doing so. So there are some people who make money on Itch.io who can't make money anymore because of this group. I'm not gonna get too much into it. There's plenty of people talking about on Itch.io and Discord and the Discords for these stories, so you can go over there and see more about it in detail. But anyway, when another bill comes out, I'll continue with it. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.